Good morning. It's Palm Sunday. Who'd have thought we would be celebrating it in our own homes? I'm recording this on Zoom. Hopefully, I'll be sharing the Bible passages we'll be reading together with you on the screen. Bear with me. I'm just learning how to work Zoom. I'm going to be reading from John chapter 12 this morning, starting from verse 1. I'm just going to share the screen with you. John chapter 1. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany where Lazarus lived, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. Only 6 days before the Passover. 6 days which would see Jesus go from being in a home with his friends to being acclaimed as the Messiah as he rode into Jerusalem, to accusations, to a trial, to death on the cross, and his resurrection in a week's time. What an momentous, huge week. It's covered by all the Gospels. And in fact, all the Gospels take a huge amount of time to tell the story of this week. But this morning we're going to stay in John chapter 12. And as we read down through the passage, we'll read in verse 9. Meanwhile, a large crowd of Jews found out that Jesus was there in Bethany and came not only because of him, but also to see Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. This crowd was made up of people who were already in Jerusalem. Bethany is about 3 kilometers from Jerusalem, so an easy walk. And a large number of people came to see Jesus. Not just to see Jesus, but to see Lazarus, who he'd raised from the dead. We know from Luke chapter 2 that a large number of people travelled to Jerusalem from all over Israel. Jesus made the journey with his family when he was a young boy. It was a time of holiday. It was a festival. It was a pilgrimage. It was a religious festival, but it was a party as well. People would come up and spend time with relatives. People wanted to see Jesus, but they also wanted to see Lazarus. But we read from verse 10. So the chief priests made plans to kill Lazarus as well, for on account of him, many of the Jews were going over to Jesus and believing him. They were an incredible bunch of people, weren't they? Lazarus was a problem because he'd been raised from the dead, and people were flocking to see him. So the Jewish leaders thought, we'll just bump him off as well. They already had planned to do that with Jesus. Jesus then went on from Bethany, and he prepared to arrive in Jerusalem. The next day, the great crowd that had come for the festival heard that Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem. They welcomed him. They took palm branches and went out to meet him, shouting, "Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the King of Israel." Jesus found a young donkey and sat on it, as it is written, "Do not be afraid, daughter of Zion. See, your king is coming, seated on a donkey's colt." Other Gospels tell us of how Jesus found a donkey, how he sent his disciples to go and prepare a room for him, to bring him back a donkey. John's Gospel says that people tore palm branches off the trees and laid it in front of him. The other Gospels say palm branches. Some took their cloaks and their coats off. Jesus arrived on a donkey as a symbol of peace, not power. People knew the prophecies. They knew Psalm 118. They knew that Jesus would arrive on a donkey, the Messiah. And they shouted out, "Hosanna," which means save us. Not only were there a huge crowd of people who'd come out from Jerusalem to go to Bethany to meet up with Jesus, there was a large crowd of people who'd come with Jesus up from Galilee. So these crowds met together and they went into Jerusalem. And you can imagine the people, more and more people wanting to get involved. Word got round who Jesus was. Let's look again at verse 19. Now the crowd was with him when he called Lazarus from the tomb and raised him from the dead. Continued to spread the word. Many people, because they had heard that he performed the sign, went out to meet him. The Pharisees said to one another, "See, this is getting us nowhere. Look how the whole world has gone after him." They were getting afraid. As we read on, people were talking about Jesus. People were talking about him, the crowd that had come up from Galilee. And there were non-Jewish Gentiles, believers who had gone up to Jerusalem. And as we know from Acts, those who were there and who stayed on for the time of Pentecost, there were people from all over the known world, from all over the Mediterranean, and many of them were Gentiles. That is, non-Jewish believers, people who had come to believe in God. And they were there. We read in verse 20. Now there were some Greeks among those who went up to worship at the festival. They came to Philip, who was from Bethsaida in Galilee, with a request. "Sir," they said, "we would like to see Jesus." Philip went to tell Andrew, and Andrew and Philip in turn told Jesus. They probably contacted the disciples because they didn't know whether they would be acceptable. As Gentile believers, there was a bit of mistrust. The pure Pharisees probably didn't want to have too much contact with them. So they were afraid of being rejected. So they contacted discreetly one of Jesus' disciples, Philip. He went and found Andrew, and Andrew and Philip went to tell Jesus. This got me thinking, many of the people that we live around today don't know God. Many of them may be thinking about things and the state of the world, especially as that some of the scary statistics come in of those who have died from the COVID-19 virus. Looking at thousands of people all over the world now. Many people are becoming scared and anxious and stressed. How are they going to find answers? Where are they going to go to look for hope in this world? Many of us are going to be people who are going to be spreading the word. Like those people who rose up and went with Jesus from places like Galilee and went up with him to Jerusalem, and they spread the word round. They told others about Jesus. Are we people who are spreading the word about Jesus? Are we telling people about the hope that we have, especially at this time when people are searching for hope? At least that's my prayer, that we as people of Newlands Baptist Church will be able to speak out and pass on that message of hope. Hope at Easter. Speak out to those people around us. Pray for those who are in our families. Pray for our neighbours. Pray for those who we know do not know God. And I really pray that many of them may be people who shout out to God this week, "Save us." Let's just pray. Lord, we know that in this time of incredible stress and anxiety, people may be looking for a reason. They may be looking for help, for hope. And I pray that we may be part of that crowd of people who spread the good news of your Son, Jesus Christ. As he came up to Jerusalem, and then as he went to the cross at Easter, help us to pass that word round. Help us to speak out about the hope that we have. Give us the courage to be able to share, whether that's online or whether it's talking over the garden fence or on the streets with people we may not even know. Help us to find ways to be able to pass on that gospel message, that good news in this most incredible week between Palm Sunday and Easter, the cross and the resurrection. Amen. Now, if you're following this link, it's going to take you into another couple of worship songs. And then after that, about 10:35, 10:40, join us on Zoom. You'll find a link in the newsletter. Join us on Zoom. Don't be afraid. We've used it a few times during this week, and it's been great fun just to see other people's faces, just to be able to smile and wave, listen to each other, celebrate, and mourn with those who have lost people. See you in a few minutes. Thank you.